Hello friends, I gave a talk at the international conference Creating Holiness, which was recently held at Mainz near Frankfurt from 17 June to 20th June. The primary aim of this conference was to integrate the research fields of Jewish studies in an international and multi-religious framework or perspective. Of the total 28 lectures that were held, speakers from different religions and different parts of the world spoke about how books, scrolls, and icons acquired holiness in Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. Myself, a Hindu, I spoke about Buddhism in Sri Lanka. In a way, this conference covered all the 5 major religions of the world. And herein lies the uniqueness and goodness about this conference, because it provided an academic environment for different scholars coming from various parts of the world and from different religions to learn about interconnections and common threads between different religions with a feeling of mutual respect and academic inquiry. I thank Dr. Annette Martini, the leader of the research project titled To Role Materialized Holiness, and her team for giving me a chance to be part of this conference and also for organizing this conference so very well. Over to my talk on the subject, how did Mahavamsa and Mahabodhivamsa become a symbol of sacredness in Sri Lanka?
Our next speaker, Rajendra Singh Thakur. Actually, we were discussing if I should mention it or not, but I'm going to mention it. He served 40 years as a major general in the Indian army, and I was wondering how is it connected to Buddhism. So maybe we can dive into this question later. But also he's holding a PhD in history and is currently a postdoc in Germany at the Frankfurt University in the history department. And today's lecture is about a Buddhist book written in the 10th century, and the title I'm not able to pronounce, sorry for this. And it was written by a monk, and he's telling us how this book turned into both a holy book, but also into a symbol of sacredness.
Thank you so much, Dana, for the kind words. I begin my talk by sharing with you the highlights of Buddhism, which is considered to have begun in 445 before Christ, the year 445 before Christ, when Siddhartha Gautam, a 29-year-old Indian prince, he, after sitting under a Bodhi tree, a fig tree, for 7 weeks, he attained enlightenment. And after which Siddhartha Gautam came to be called as Buddha. And Buddha simply means someone who's awakened. I'm sure there are some Buddhas sitting here also. Buddha actually in his time never imagined that his teachings would last 25 centuries and spread to 30 Asian countries, including Vietnam and China. We just heard in the morning Bui Thi and later about the spread of Buddhism in China. He never thought that his teachings would spread for such a long time and so many countries, so many languages. And actually, he also never intended to create a new religion. Buddha was only trying to refine Hinduism. Buddha was a Hindu, he was born Hindu, he died a Hindu. And he was only trying to improve upon Hinduism. But his own life and his teachings were so profound that it resulted in creating a new religion. Buddhism, we are all aware that it is followed by 7% of the entire people on earth, and which is about 500 million people. And it is unique in many ways. And why it is unique? It is unique because Buddhism relies on logic. It is based on rational logic, and the fundamental aim of Buddhism is to just enable human beings to achieve, attain, refine enlightenment, or you may call it wisdom, which is the mental development of the highest order. Buddha's views on God. Buddha never denied that God is not there. But he said that there is no way that you can find out if the God is there or if he is not there. And then he also said that, well, if he is there or not there, actually it does not have any effect on the life of a man or a woman. And Buddha also did not offer his followers the joy of going to heaven after death. He said there's no life after death. So Buddhism is actually not only a religion, but it is a philosophy, it is a way of life, it is a philosophy which is based on right action, based on right knowledge. We talk about Sri Lanka. Buddhism spread to Sri Lanka started in 3rd century before Christ, when King Ashoka, he is considered to be one of the India's greatest emperor, and he sent his son and daughter to Sri Lanka when they were in their 20s. Both had become monk and nun respectively, to spread the message of Buddhism. And since then, since about 2300 years before, till now, Buddhism has continued to grow in Sri Lanka. And today, almost 70% of the population of Sri Lanka follow the ideals of Buddhism. And the reason why Buddhism has remained such a powerful force amongst this island country is because of various scriptures that have been written by monks and nuns in this entire period. And within this 2300 years, I would say about 1700 years, and the initial period of 300 to 400 years is been through oral tradition. This is how the teachings of Buddha were continued. And Sri Lanka also is considered to have the oldest living Buddhist population, Buddhist civilization. With this as so there are numerous canonical and non-canonical writings on Buddhism, and which give out the teachings of Buddha, and we know that non-canonical writings are the writings which give the teachings of these various Buddhist scholars. And these two chronicles, Mahavamsa is a chronicle written in an earlier time frame, and Mahabodhivamsa, which was written in the 10th century AD. These are the two Sri Lankan chronicles which are in the non-canonical category. And with this as a short introduction, I will talk about how these two, Mahavamsa and Mahabodhivamsa, became an object of holiness in Sri Lanka. I will just give you a short insight into the Buddhist literature, its peculiarities of the Buddhist literature. Then I'll talk about Mahavamsa, which is called as the National Chronicle of Sri Lanka. And then in the end, I'll talk about Mahabodhivamsa. Coming on to the part 1. As I said that the art of writing was not existent in the time that Buddha was there, 445 year before Christ, and so Buddha and his disciples, they did not write. So all the teachings of Buddha When he was alive, he preached Buddhism from the year of 29, and he died when he was 80 years old. For 45, about 45 years, he preached Buddhism to his followers. And his teachings were, after he died, that is when all his followers got together and they were they said, how do we sustain his teachings? So this was done through the word of mouth and by various monks. And there were various councils were held, Buddhist councils were held, just to take this task ahead as to how do we continue the teachings to be passed on from generation to another generation. As I said, that first 300 to 400 years through oral tradition, these were preserved. And how these were preserved were in the monasteries, the educational system, the monks and nuns. I would like to highlight here that in Buddhism, way back at the time of Buddha, the nuns were given an equal status in imparting religious knowledge and given an equal status in the monasteries. In addition to the practice of the teachings being passed on through word of mouth as part of the education curriculum of the monks and nuns in the monasteries, we are all aware that whenever the monk or nun would visit a common man's house or a householder, as they call it, for offering for their food or their requirements, there was a practice that they would recite the teachings of Buddha in the Pali language, and the common man would hear, man or a woman. And then this is how this practice was being propagated. And at times, the person who was hearing it, he also became interested in kind of saying it himself. So this is how this teachings continued. And this is how also the sacredness of the teachings of Buddha was enhanced. Now, as I said, that after about 400 years, when this writing capability came on to the humans, Buddha's teachings were put down. The hymns, the prayers, the prose, the poems, they were put down in Pali language. Why Pali language? Pali language is a language spoken in North India, and Pali language is the language which Buddha used to speak. So that is how this is all were put down in the Pali language. And as I said in the beginning, that Buddhist literature is of two categories: canonical, which gives out the teachings of the Buddha himself; non-canonical, which gives out the teachings of the various Buddhist scholars. Now, canonical text is called as three pitak. Three means three, and pitak is a basket. So basically, all the canonical text literature of Buddhism in Sri Lanka and various other countries in Asia are in three baskets and each basket has again books of different number of books. I will not talk about it in much detail, but this is the essence of the canonical literature, Buddhist literature in Sri Lanka and other countries. The non-canonical text, which contains the teachings of Buddhist scholars, are in three languages: Pali, Sanskrit, and combination of the two. It's called Sanskrit Buddhist. And there are about a dozen works in this category. And some of these are Milan Panaha, Neti, Pakarna, Jataka, Deepavamsa. And then these two, one Mahavamsa and Mahabodhivamsa, which I am going to talk about. I come to the next part of my talk. Mahavamsa, how did it become a symbol of holiness, sacredness in Sri Lanka? Prior to Mahavamsa, we had Deepavamsa. Deep means island, Vamsa is a chronicle. So Deepavamsa is the first Sri Lankan literature on Buddhism, and it was written in 3rd or 4th century BC, and it is It is not I would say, refined work. It is written by people, different monks, and a primitive kind of a work. Language used is not so refined, and it covers the life of Ashok, King Ashoka, who was instrumental in bringing Buddhism in Sri Lanka. It covers the life of Buddha. It also gives out, it also talks about the Buddhist councils. The point to note is here is that it also, it is not something that was just written and people have been writing, adding onto it and making changes to it. Now, how Mahavamsa became a symbol of holiness in Sri Lanka? As I said, Maha means big, and this is actually considered as the national chronicle of Sri Lanka, and this covers the period from the time of Buddha till the 4th century AD, and it contains the political history of Sri Lanka, all the dynasties, all the kings who supported Buddhism, and various monks, and also the missions of Mahinda and Sanghamitra. Mahinda and Sanghamitra, as I said, are the son and daughter of King Ashoka who came to Sri Lanka to spread Buddhism. And Mahavamsa is a kind of a refinement of Deepavamsa. Now I want to just highlight the title of this chronicle, Mahavamsa. It is as per Buddhism, we know that one of the essential principle of Buddhism is impermanence. He says that nothing is permanent, and Buddhism, the Buddhist literature in Sri Lanka never termed their chronicles, their writings as histories. They termed it as chronicles. They were basically interested in making sure that the teachings of Buddha, various traditions followed in Buddhism, they should be passed on, and that was the main focus and the central theme of these chronicles, and that is why the Sri Lankan chronicles are called chronicles and not histories, or not itihas. In Hindi we say itihas. They are called Vamsa. I was going through the last 45 days. I've been doing a lot of reading on Mahavamsa, and I was happy to see a lot of German writings on this chronicle written about it. I now come to the part 3 as to how Mahabodhivamsa, which was written 400 years later, how it became a symbol of holiness. Mahabodhivamsa comparatively is less written about chronicle than Mahavamsa, and again, as I said, it is been written in Pali language. It was written by the monk by the name of Upatisya. I tried to find, I have researched a lot, but could not find much about him. And this again gives an account of how Buddha got enlightened, about his life, about his death, and the main focus of Mahabodhivamsa is on the bringing of the sapling of the Bodhi tree. Bodhi tree is the tree under which Buddha got his enlightenment in India, and a sapling of this tree was brought by the daughter of King Ashok from India to Sri Lanka. So the main focus of this chronicle is on describing this, how this sapling was carried from India to Sri Lanka. And it describes in detail the King Ashok. He went to this place, Bodh Gaya, which is in North India, where this tree is there, and he got this sapling removed from there, and he put it in a vase, and then he brought it to the capital. From capital, it was brought to the seaport, and from the seaport, then the daughter and her companions, they all embarked on their journey, on the sea journey, from the seaport by the name of Tamra Lipti, and along with the Sanghamitra, there were various skilled workers who were required for various religious ceremonies. They also accompanied, And then the book also describes the kind of difficulties that were faced while during their sea voyage, and then how this entire team was received in Sri Lanka by the king himself, King Devana Tissa. He himself neck deep in water, and he was there to receive this golden vase. And how then this sapling was then taken from the north gate of in a city called Anuradhapura, and this sapling in the vase was carried through the north gate, and there was many ceremonies held and celebrations held, and then carried to a garden, Mahamega garden, and that is where it was planted. And subsequently, out of this, there were 40 more saplings that came out, and they were taken to different places in the island of Sri Lanka and planted there. And today, this Mahabodhi tree in Sri Lanka and Anuradhapura is considered very sacred, and it's a very prominent holy site for anyone who visits Sri Lanka. How did Mahabodhivamsa become sacred? As I said that Mahabodhivamsa was recited by various monks and nuns during various ceremonies which were held, and then in addition, the Bodhi tree itself is considered an object of great veneration. And I would not like to draw comparisons, but to lots and lots of Buddhists, the Bodhi tree itself signifies something very divine, something very godly, something to be worshipped. And in addition, subsequently, we all know that from Buddhism, the teachings of Buddha got kind of modified, and original teachings got modified into various sects, and as per some sects, in the Bodhi tree there are spirits who live, and these spirits also satisfy followers wishes. In case you give them offering, then they give something back in return. So this is how the sacredness of Mahabodhivamsa was again multiplied. In addition to what was being done by the monks and what was being done by the public, the kings also played a very active role in propagating the teachings of Buddha. And but here I would like to say that Buddhism and always preached that a very, I would say, a high esteem for other religions. So kings also performed various ceremonies. There were ceremonies held after every 12th year for worshipping this Bodhi tree. So this is how again the sacredness was enhanced. I would conclude by saying that what I said in the beginning, Buddhism is unique because its reliance on logic. Buddhism is unique because it enables humans to attain enlightenment, and it basically says that follow the logic, don't blindly trust anything, question everything, and follow the right path after attaining right knowledge. And Buddhism has laid down certain eightfold noble path, which I'm sure you can read subsequently. Yeah, it says that Buddha says that you don't have to become a monk and don't have to become a hermit and go to the mountains and leave everything. He also says that, on the other hand, don't have to lead a life of total luxury. He advocates a middle path. So, because that is what he himself learned. And Mahavamsa, it is the national chronicle of Sri Lanka. It has remained sacred because of the involvement of all the people, monks and nuns and the common public, the kings, during various centuries. And Mahabodhivamsa, comparatively lesser known, but Mahabodhivamsa is considered as sacred because of this, the aspect that I spoke about, the importance given by the planting of the tree in Anuradhapura by Sanghamitra. And in the end, I would like to say a big thank you to Dr. Martini, the head of the two-role project, and Dana and Katharina and Christian for giving me this chance to share my thoughts with all of you. And I have finished.